So I actually got to go all the way down to Durban, Kruger, and also the Cape Town region, which was very nice for those of you that have been. For those of you who have not been, I certainly hope that someday you will get to go, which I definitely could help you with, or we could help you with at any time. So hopefully everybody can see our screen here. If not, feel free to raise your hand or chat a question over to me. I am monitoring that, and we'll give a couple minutes at the end for any additional questions. But to give you an overview of what we're going to talk about, basically just a little bit about us, a little bit about some of the food in the region, and then hopefully, some of the classic foods, some of the wine, and then maybe look at a couple packages and answer any questions that you may have. So a little bit about South African Airways. Let's make sure I can get this to change here. Yes, okay, perfect, wonderful. So a little bit about South African Airways. We are the division of, or the leisure division, if you will, of South African Airways in the U.S. market. They have two hubs out of JFK and out of Washington, D.C., but of course our interline domestic partners include American, U.S., JetBlue, Virgin America. So we pretty much can get our passengers from any major U.S. city to South Africa via New York or Washington, D.C. Actually, the JFK flight is nonstop most of the year, and the Washington, D.C. flight actually goes through and stops once along the way, a technical stop they call it, which is refueling. But no, you would not get off. Obviously, it's just kind of a way to stand up, stretch your legs, and then get going. But the flight is quite lengthy from New York, JFK, and Washington Dulles, about 15 hours or so. And most people go on through the hub of Johannesburg and then on to either Cape Town, Kruger, or Durban, or whatever other destination in Southern or East Africa that you may choose. But the flight time is about 2 hours or so from Johannesburg to Cape Town, and about less than an hour actually to the Kruger area. So real quick, easy direct flight from the U.S. But we obviously put the leisure division and leisure packages together for South African Airways. So a little bit about South African food and the influences. The Cape Malay influence is actually kind of goes all the way back to the Dutch East India Company and the spice route. So obviously it was a big organization moving and the trade, spice trade through and south of the Cape of Good Hope, as it's called today, actually known as the Cape of Storm back in the day. Obviously, because if you've been to South Africa, you know, and if you've been on the Cape of Good Hope, you know, that the weather there can be pretty brutal, actually. Quite a bit of ships were lost right off the coast there. So it was actually a good landing spot for a lot of the early spice routes from South Africa, which brought in the Dutch influence, the what are kind of the Afrikaans, in what we know today is Afrikaans. And obviously there was a lot of influence with the African regions bringing their spices, because the Africans were the ones that were laborers on the trip. And so they brought a lot of their spices, such as the garlics, the ginger, chili, fennel, cumin, a lot of nutmeg in the foods there. But if you go to South Africa, you will almost always see a Cape Malay style curries, babodi, which is a really actually good, actually almost like a meatloaf, but they use some bay leaves and some raisins, which is really good as well. And the curries again, and the sasastes, which is kind of a kebab is what we would call it here. You can actually see it up in my picture here. I'm not sure if you can see my pointer, but this picture was actually taken after about a 17-hour flight from New York to Johannesburg, and I connected onward to the Kruger National Park area, and this was actually taken from Thorny Bush property. And it was my first meal in South Africa. But you can see the variety of foods all have influences of the various spices and really good salads. The salad in the middle here had spinach, feta, and watermelon. Really good food. Moving on to another big influence in the South African cuisine, and that is the Indian and African fusion. We see this in the KwaZulu-Natal region. This is actually the second largest population of Indians in the world, I believe, and they bring a lot of their curry-style spices to the food there. And it's pretty evident when you go that this is quite a popular dish. It's called bunny chow. It is a curry, actually, for the most part. And no, it's not made of bunnies. It's actually a comfort food. It's lamb curry in a hollowed-out quarter loaf of bread. It's often considered the ultimate comfort food in South Africa. And the spices can be very curry-based, tastes much like a curry, and also can be vegetarian, actually. So actually kind of came as a working class person's food in the vegetarian source, and then obviously evolved to this kind of this comfort food in the region. Of course, you can't go or talk about South African food without talking about biltong, and hopefully everyone will get to experience biltong and droevers at some point in their lives, but this is the equivalent of our beef jerky, if you will. But it's pretty different than what we would consider beef jerky. It is much moister and tender, and they actually use vinegar in the meat and coriander and cloves, so it has a real unique taste. And true story, anytime you go to South Africa, I've been several times on business, and at the end of the day, if you're at a trade show or looking for an appetizer or whatever it may be, the South Africans will bring out bowls of biltong and South African wine and welcome you into their home, and this is a delicacy. I don't think I've ever seen a South African pass up a bowl of biltong without taking a couple handfuls. Then, other classic South African terms include a braai, which is actually Afrikaans for to grill, and this is also very traditional. And this actually, South African families take it on as take a lot of pride actually in their braais. Always over open charcoal, and the host typically will cook the food in small portions, pass it out to their guests. The boerewors is a traditional sausage, essentially, much like our sausage here in the U.S. And then again, the sisasti, which is the equivalent of our kebabs, and always using those traditional spices. The boerewors uses, again, a little bit more of the clove-type spices in it. And obviously the Malay spices, the Cape Malay spices in the sisasti. The meats, South Africans definitely love their meats, their beefs. I have to say this picture below is actually one of my pictures I took of a filet mignon on a night safari dinner with a really nice glass of Pinotage. The beef there is very good, very tender, and the South Africans take a lot of pride in their food. But of course, with a city like Cape Town, very obviously first world and very wealthy residents, you get world-class cuisine, world-famous restaurants like at the One and Only and the Tasting Room in the Winelands are world-renowned for their cuisine. One of the questions we actually get asked quite a bit is how the food is on a safari. Actually, we'll get to that, but let's talk about the wine. Of course, I almost forgot the most important part, my favorite part, the wine. And the wine in South Africa is actually famous. And if you have not had some of the wine from the South African region, I highly recommend you trying any reputable wine store here in the U.S. should carry some of the varietals that, or some of the wineries in South Africa. And by the way, in South Africa, wineries are actually called wine farms. Kind of an interesting fact there. But the history of wine, again, kind of comes from the trade routes. And wine grapes were planted based on the fact that they needed a way to combat scurvy. So they came in and planted grapes in the Constantia region of Cape Town, which is just outside Cape Flats, I believe, and still exist today. Some of the oldest wineries from the 1600s or so still exist today. But obviously, some of the well-known regions in the area called the Winelands, French Hook, Stellenbosch, Paarl. Paarl has a much bigger city, has a lot of their very big production wineries, and then the Heaven Earth Valley, and much others. I think, if you look at French Hook and Stellenbosch, you'll be able to kind of equate those to the wine regions that we see as premium wine regions in the U.S., such as, like Napa Valley. Whereas the Heaven and Earth Valley, I found them to be a little bit more kind of a boutique. Now, I wouldn't say smaller, but boutique, definitely sprawling estates. Here actually is a picture of me at one of those estates, a very large vineyard, complimentary tastings. You sit at big tables. It's very much an experience. Walk through the actual aging rooms and very unique displays. This winery here, I have to remember the name, they actually serve their wines on South African Airways, so I kind of thought that was kind of neat. And then if you go to any of the big lodges, they will almost always have huge wine cellars, and many times will offer dinners in those cellars when you request them. So definitely keep that in mind for any trip out there. But you can't talk about South African wines without talking about Pinotage. And Pinotage is South Africa's most famous grape. It is a cross between a Pinot Noir and a Cinsault grape. Has a really deep, rich color, almost a smoky, earthy flavor with a rich tint of aged tobacco. It's a very good wine. It, in many cases, can stand on its own. Actually, it's one of my favorite varietals of wine. And then, obviously, as with any wine region, the traditional Bordeaux style, the French grapes, the other varieties from around the world grow well there. They're Cabernet Sauvignons. I'm a red wine drinker, so the Cabernet Sauvignons I found to be very good. Their oaking process, what we call oaking, is actually called the wooded. So if you like a heavily oaked product, you'll ask for something that's heavily wooded. So just a little tip when ordering wine over there. And I'll touch a little bit on beer, actually. Beer in South Africa is, traditional like we see here in the U.S. I didn't really put it in here, but I will touch on it briefly because I'm also a beer guy. The beer, actually the craft beers are actually taking off a little bit over there as well. So, but traditional Pilsners over there. And then, yeah, so we look at one of the slides that I think I may have went over, but a lot of people ask about our wine experiences on safari. The wine experiences on safari are what we call fully inclusive, or either fully inclusive, which would be what we would call here as all-inclusive, or what we call half board or full board. So I'll explain those terms real quickly. Half board is 2 meals daily, traditionally breakfast and dinner, and then the full board is breakfast, dinner, and lunch. Now, when you're on safari in most of the premium lodges, you're going to have what we call full board. And the difference between full board and fully inclusive or all-inclusive is basically comes down to your drinks. A full board meal plan will be tea and coffee. The typical day on safari is the waking up quite early because your safari game drives actually depart. They're weather dependent and time of the year dependent when the sun comes up, but let's say 6 o'clock in the morning. So at 5:30 or so, the guides and the lodge staff will set up tea and biscuits, or scones as we would call them, coffee, tea, scones, and then you would get a little snack before heading out on your safari game drive. And then on the safari game drive, you actually get to go in and drive around for a while, but they'll stop in the mornings and get some tea and coffee and cookies. You'll have a second stop before going on and a couple 2-3 hour game drive in the morning, see all your game, come back, and they'll have breakfast ready for you. And then you're kind of on your own for the day on the safari. During the day, you can opt for an optional walking safari. A lot of folks decide they want to go and get a spa treatment, and a lot of folks just decide they want to go take a nap or hang out by the pool. Lunch, as I showed you earlier, is generally a sampling of the cuisine. You can have it outdoors, indoors, however you may choose. And then in the afternoon, of course, high tea, because South Africans love their high tea. And one of the things that you want to do when on the safari is take advantage of the high tea, because that's generally right before your game drive. In the afternoon, as the sun is setting, you will be on a game drive. So take a little bit of a snack there. Again, tea, coffee, cake generally at that one. So then you would move on to your game drive, evening game drive, again, lasting generally a few hours, depending on what you see and what type of animals are out there. And on the game drive experience, you actually will get a chance to stop once for a sundowner. The sundowner is actually, I'll see if I can bring it up. It's actually my first slide. So here is a traditional sundowner. As the sun is setting over the region, you will stop and they'll break out some beers, some wine, some cocktails. If you can see in the little tin there, that's actually biltong, some popcorn. Like I said, there's probably no chance that you're going to get out of South Africa without at least having an opportunity to try biltong. And again, some really good South African wines there on your safari trip. And then in the evening, you will come back and have your traditional dinner in South Africa, and that is generally in a boma style, open air with a here's the traditional dinner here, open air with candlelight or fireside. And during the dinners, your boma, your guide, will actually come and sit with you for after the meal, and you'll have an opportunity to kind of sit one-on-one and talk about what you saw. They're very knowledgeable, give you a lot of pointers on how to see the various animals, additional information on whatever you're interested in, whether it be vegetation, flowers, or the small critters. One of my favorite animals that I saw on safari was a serval cat, which I thought was really cool to see because they're kind of rare. But of course, they're going to really like to give you a good overview of the big five. So what I'll do here is I'll just kind of pull up a couple of the packages we have here. This is the South African Airways vacation site. It's flysaavacations.com, and to kind of look through some of our packages, we put them a couple different ways. One of my favorite ways to get to it here is just going to vacation, culinary experiences. And here you can kind of search through and look at our various packages. So whether or not you're looking for, a lot of people look for the safari experience. So one of our classic packages here is the wine and safari. This image here is in Constantia. This is actually one of the oldest vineyards in the region, still around. So many of these typical wine and safari packages going to include your traditional Cape Point Peninsula tour, which is going to go through to the Cape of Good Hope. You're going to go to Boulders Beach and see the penguin colonies, and then typically you will go on to the Winelands and have either a backstage Winelands tour or a full-day Winelands tour. We typically suggest spending a couple nights in the region, and there is a wine train that will actually take you from vineyard to vineyard, so it's very, very easy. Another cool package that we have is this Cape Arter wine and culinary tour package. This is actually done in conjunction with Cape Arter, who, if you're looking for some really good wine in the U.S., definitely do a quick search engine search for Cape Arter. They're one of the largest distributors of South African wines in the U.S., and this tour is the ultimate foodie journey, and this is one that actually Jerry, my colleague, who is a total foodie, put together, and it's going to some of the top restaurants in the region. So definitely check this one out. It's the Cape Arter Wine and Culinary Journey. It's escorted actually, so you'll be going with these wine distributors who know a lot about South African wine, and actually has hosted dinners with cellar masters and winemakers. So definitely one to check out. That's really all I had for you today. Just a real quick synopsis of some of the food, wine of the region. We have about 5 minutes left in the webinar. So if anybody has any questions, I'll wait for a chat or a hands up and answer them if you'd like. Yes, it looks like we have a quick question about the distance from Cape Town to the Winelands. So good question. It's a very quick drive, probably about an hour or so, depending on traffic. The speed limit in South Africa is very quick, 70, 75, I think, same as here in the U.S. And so you can get to the Winelands really quickly. Now, that's going into what I refer to as the Winelands is Stellenbosch and French Hook, Parle. So if you went to the Heaven and Earth Valley region, that is also a close region. And I believe that, if I remember correctly, it was about a 2-hour drive to that area. They actually have, it's a little bit more open. They actually have horseback wine tasting tours over there. It can give you a really, really nice experience. And then we have, let's see here. Yes, looks like we had a question about the Cape Arter tour. It does have a specific departure date. And how many throughout the year, not 100% sure. So I'll actually have to get back to you on that to see how they can do that. But it's also a tour that we can do on what we call FIT. So it's going to be kind of something that we can put together independently. And the only caveat to that would be that you wouldn't be, if you don't go with the group, obviously, then the Cape Arthur team's not going to be there. So, but we can still arrange some of those tastings with the wine cellar masters and give you a really good overview about the winemaking process. And that's one of the things that this tour is good about, is that they will walk you through the process, and they're all very knowledgeable, very nice. Actually, I was tasting wine in Virginia, and I came across just chatting with the wine master there, and he actually studied in Stellenbosch. There's a big vinicultural school there. So a lot of the winemakers in the U.S. have actually had training in that area. So so this tour is a group tour, but no, it does not have to be a group tour, like I said. So definitely can email you some additional information on how that would work. And so I hope that answered your questions. But again, so the Hermanus is about 2 hours. This Cape Arthur tour is, yeah, not a problem. Then this Cape Arthur tour is actually, I apologize. So that, yeah, it's about 2 hours, and then that region, larger estates, but we're in French Hook, Stellenbosch. You can kind of walk around and get on the wine train. This region is a little bit more spread out. So anyway, I think that's just a couple more minutes. If anybody has any other questions. Yes. So yes, the tours can be customized. So if you had a specific, like Ernie L's vineyard is very popular. Yes. So if there's a specific wine area you wanted to go to, or a specific wine region that you like, we can definitely customize it and connect you with the correct people. One of the tours that we don't have, but if I had my perfect tour, I would probably put, I would incorporate that Heaven and Earth Valley, and then I would also incorporate probably Stellenbosch or French Hook. But that little loop there is just has such good. Again, sorry, I'm a wine guy myself, but has such good wineries. But also, there's really nice small little cafes. If you go to Camp Bay, you can get such great experiences. If you go to Long Street in Cape Town, which is outside the Victoria and Alfred, kind of the traditional, restaurants that in the tourist region. So there is, quite a bit of opportunity to customize the trips as you feel fit. One of the things I always kind of recommend is to kind of keep yourself open. We can obviously book ahead of time, reservations and whatnot, but I always recommend keeping a couple days open to let yourself kind of explore. You may get wind of a place that you think you may like, and you may want to keep yourself flexible to go to that place. Let's see here. Oh boy, how many wineries in the Winelands? Oof. Wow, that is a really good question, and one that I couldn't even take a stab. There's so many wineries there. It would be very similar to Napa. How many wineries there are in Napa. I don't know, 300. Maybe not that many. Maybe 300. It could be 300. But you stumped me on that one, and I can actually try to find out for you. And so hopefully that's something that we'll get. Yeah, I'd agree. Around the three regions. And there's a lot more. There's a lot of other regions that you can go to. They're a little bit further out. If you're ever interested in self-driving, there's some regions that you can get to a little bit easier. And driving in South Africa is very easy. So Any other questions? Perfect. Well, I appreciate everybody's attendance, and hopefully we can help you guys out. If you have any questions, you can contact us through our website at the www.flysaavacations.com. Inquire Now button, contact us, or bookings at flysaavacations.com. Thank you again, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Bye for now.